And now, live from Los Angeles, it's the Ultimate Candid Show with Brad and the Shark. Today's guest is Greg Rom. We're going to learn something a little bit candid about Greg today.
We are?
We are. Are you ready?
Let's go!
Let's go! Sharkus, how you doing today?
I'm good, man.
What's new in the world?
Well, it's been a busy week, and, sadly, sad news, Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll, passed away this week.
No.
83 years old from kidney disease.
No.
Yeah. It's really sad.
She was an icon. Proud Mary?
Proud Mary, what's love got to do with it?
She had some real big hits. She was an amazing woman.
She was. She redefined her life. It started out a little rocky.
Tell us about that.
Well, she was married to Ike Turner. That's how she started.
Right.
And, I guess Ike didn't, they were married for like 15 years. She wasn't treated real well. And then, a lot of domestic abuse and domestic violence. And, they made that movie, What's Love Got to Do with It, which really opened up everybody's eyes to what really happened to her in her life. And now she redefined the back half of her life and her journey. So with that being said, yeah, she was going through dialysis at home. And for the last few years, she had a stroke and all kinds of stuff. And, one of her advocacies is like, you need to really take care of your body and not ignore it. And then poor thing, Cher visited her towards the end of her life because they were really close friends.
Another amazing woman.
So Cher came and visited her. And one of Tina's parting gifts was one of her beautiful shoes that she gave to Cher as a going away present and said, I want you to enjoy this.
Wow.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we really would like to do today is also, talk about other things like domestic violence. And, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But also this week, Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, just got approved a $13 billion loan to the city of Los Angeles.
Her entire budget was just recently approved.
Yeah, it was. And they're actually acquiring their first hotel. So, she's trying to get things moving and shaking. I mean, this city has the highest amount of homeless people in the nation. I mean, I guess our great weather has a lot to do with that.
That helps.
It doesn't hurt.
No.
And then on top of that, a lot of people tend to ship people to Los Angeles for whatever reason.
Can't imagine why, but it's my understanding she had nearly $250,000 and she's going to get those in increments of 50.
Yeah. Earmarked.
Wow.
So she's trying to cut the red tape that the past administration had to deal with. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, and a lot of these people also need help with mental health. So it's kind of a twofold challenge because, there's been a lot of neglect over the years. But, LA is not the only city that's had these challenges.
No. One step at a time.
Exactly.
Very good. What else is going on in the world?
That's pretty much it. One thing I'd like to let people know is about domestic violence. If you know somebody or you are the victim of domestic violence, please contact the following number. It's 1-800-799-7233. I'm also going to put
Very
it
important.
up.
Very
Okay?
important topic for people to see.
Because
Please
I
pull
think
that up on the
it's-
screen there for just a minute.
Let me do that. And then that way we can let people see that.
So the domestic violence hotline,
Right.
the National Domestic Violence Hotline is www.thehotline.org. And the phone number is 1-800-799-7233.
And I implore anybody out there that might be suffering or going through domestic abuse, please call this number. You will get help. Thank you very much.
That goes for anybody for that matter.
Exactly.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Sharky. That is very, very nice, very kind, and very generous. And please, any of our listeners, that's important for you to know that number. So Thank you very much.
Go get help.
Listen, let's move on now to our next chapter. We have a terrific guest today.
Really?
His name is Greg Rom, and Greg Rom has a very interesting background. He has some very interesting stories to say about some celebrities, and
he's about to join us, and I think when you listen to some of his stories, you'll be fascinated.
I think he might be at the front door.
Is that Killer?
That's Killer.
Oh Oh my God! We better get to the door. Somebody better get to the door before Killer eats him. Did you feed Killer today?
No, I didn't feed him yet.
Oh no!
There's the bell. Greg, let's get Greg. Come on in.
Hey, Greg.
Hello, Greg. How are you? Good to see
Good to
you.
see you.
Thanks for joining us, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Sit down. Tell us all about this.
Well, there we go.
We're all hooked up and ready to go.
Well, I have compiled some very, very interesting stories. Basically, as far as my background is concerned, I was born in Los Angeles. My parents were both in the entertainment business when I was born, which later changed. Basically, I became a drummer at a very young age, which I've carried through my entire life, which has been a great ride. And I have some very interesting people in my family that I'd like to talk about today.
Very good.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So let's get going.
Yeah, let's get going. Tell us about your first celebrity encounter and where that started.
Okay. First celebrity encounter was that was with my father. Couldn't get us out of the hospital.
Oh, okay.
And didn't have the money. So my mom and I were at Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in downtown LA. And my dad picked up a newspaper and looked up a job so he could make some instant money, and basically got a job selling insurance. So he basically went out that day determined to get enough money to get us out of the hospital, and was driving through a neighborhood in the Encino area. Make a long story short, he sold some insurance that day, and the next day he bought a lot right across the street from a very famous actor by the name of Clark Gable.
No way.
Clark Gable.
Clark Gable.
Clark Gable.
You met Clark Gable?
Oh, yeah. He's actually my godfather.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people can say that?
I don't know. But I was born 9 months to my parents' meeting. They were both in Vegas at the time. And when they finally put the house together and built the house on the lot, Mr. Gable used to sit across the street on his tractor drinking whiskey in his orange grove. And my father went up one day and accused him of being another actor by the name of Ray Milland. And they became the best of friends. So we were part of his life and he was part of our life for, I guess, about 7 years.
Next door neighbors with Clark Gable.
Yeah.
So tell our viewers a little bit about Clark Gable. Like, how is he famous?
Oh, he did numerous movies back in the day. Primarily in the 30s and 40s, I would have to say. Again, I was only a year old, so I don't remember too much. As I got older, I spent more time over at his house, and there was very famous actors and that would come by the house. I didn't know who they were, but this is what I was told. Later on in life, I figured just what a great man he was. He was a very kind man. He loved to have fun, and he was a prankster. So he and my father...
Tell us a prank.
Oh, my God. They would prank all the time. So I remember when they went fishing together. They used to like to go fishing. And a lot of people don't know this, but Clark Gable had false teeth. So he would take his whiskey flask and pour a little whiskey into a cup and then put his teeth in it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So my father decided one day when Clark wasn't looking to steal his teeth.
No.
Yeah. And this was a prank that went on for about a week from what I understood. He actually, my dad told me he actually went to a dentist and had another set made. And then he took the original teeth back one day and got inside the house and just left them on a counter saying, "I think you've been looking for these." So,
Oh, my God. He must have panicked.
Oh, he panicked. That's
that's
what
his bread and butter.
Oh, you betcha. You betcha.
So these were in your younger years. You betcha. Are you from the Midwest too?
I spent some time in the Midwest.
Okay.
Isn't that Fargo?
Yeah.
You betcha.
Betcha.
Up there in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Minnesota?
Fargo? South Dakota?
South Dakota.
Yeah?
Yeah, you bet.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's how I started off in life. It seemed very normal to me, which brings up a real quick point that, you know, all the things that I've been through and you've been through, we've all been through, sometimes when you're younger, your world that you live in, you think everybody's world is like that. And it's not. So I've got a lot of great experiences over my lifetime.
So that would have been like your early years, up till about 7, 8 years of age, something
7,
like that
8,
with Clark
yeah.
Gable.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
Well, my folks got a divorce, which then led into some very interesting situations. My dad ended up with custody of my brother and I.
Okay.
And decided that he was going to find another wife, and then another wife, and then many more wives. So I grew up in a very interesting household that I had numerous stepmothers over a period of about 8 years.
Sometimes that happens.
It happens. And one of them was a Playboy bunny.
A Playboy bunny?
Uh-huh.
Tell us about that.
Well, that was very, very interesting situation. So we had lots of Playboy bunnies that were girlfriends of my stepmother that would come to the house a lot, and a lot of parties and stuff. And it was great.
It was very interesting. Well, we'll lead into that. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about what your businesses are right now. Charkis, if you could pull that up for me real quick. We just want to make sure that, you know, Greg gets a little detail here, and our listeners get an opportunity to contact Greg if they're interested. He's actually a drummer in a band. We'll talk about that for a moment. And he sells insurance.
It's a man of many trades.
A man of many traits. And there we go. Greg Rom. Greg, you can point this out for us. Why don't you tell us?
Okay. That's me.
Right there in the center.
In the center. This is a band that I play in and have been playing in for a long time, called the Hollywood Rockerfellas. If you want to check us out, we're at thehollywoodrockerfellas.com. And the email is hollywoodrockerfellas@gmail.com. And then I own a company called Monaco Insurance Services, which I've owned for many years. I went into the insurance business second generation after my father. I worked with him for a while, then I went on my own.
And can you detail your email for us there in case somebody wants to get in touch with you?
Yes, it's Greg at Monaco, Monaco, the number 4, insurance.com.
So that's Greg at monacoforinsurance.com.
And what kind of insurance? Is it like anything, or what?
We write, I'm in many states with the company, but yeah, we write pretty much any type of risk. I do anything from corporate to personal. I do a lot of life insurance and retirement. Okay. And I recently got involved in some really good charity 501c3 corporations having to do with animals, and from anywhere from dogs to zoo animals and whatnot across the United States, where they help these animals. Nice. A lot of them coming out of zoos and circuses.
So do you insure like expensive animals too? I mean, when you have like celebrities, for example, when you know they treat sometimes their animal better than themselves.
That's a true statement. Yeah, my first client was Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne. What was that like?
Wow,
that was phenomenal. So
he just walked in and knocked on the door one
Well,
day?
not exactly.
How did that play out?
Well, we had an office in Beverly Hills under Rom Insurance. We were at Crescent Drive in Wilshire, and I came in to the business at 16 years old while I was in high school. And one day I got a phone call a couple days after I got my broker's license, and basically someone said, "I need you to come up to my home tomorrow. I need you to see if you can write some insurance for an artist." And I went, "Sure, I'll be there." So I went up to the house. It was Don Arden of Jet Records at his house, and his daughter Sharon Arden, who then became Sharon Osbourne. And Ozzy just flew in with Randy Rhoads, his guitar player. Kind of a tragic story there. And basically was able to put insurance together so they could start touring to promote their first album, which, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most phenomenal albums I've ever even heard. really, really an amazing journey there. Part of that with the insurance companies was I had to spend a lot of time on the road and a lot of time making sure that things were running smoothly to keep everybody on track and keep the policies in force.
But you actually went to Ozzy Osbourne's house. You went up there, knocked on the door, and went directly into his house.
It was actually Don Arden,
Don Arden.
the head of Jet Records, yeah.
Okay.
And knocked on the door, went in. We were in a kind of a study setting. There was a bar there. I remember that. And Sharon came out. I met Sharon. She was then Sharon Arden. And Don, her dad, if you know Ozzy's history, you'll know he was with Black Sabbath. Don made Black Sabbath happen.
Wow.
And now Ozzy's back on the scene in the United States with Randy, with, again, this phenomenal album that I got to hear some of it that day, and I was just blown away by it was just phenomenal.
What was it like to meet him first time? I mean, face to face. What did you get starstruck?
It was, no, I don't really get starstruck. I was very respectful.
Uh-huh.
I was there to do a job. I was there to see if I could make this happen. From my understanding, they had been to a few other places for the insurance and were not able to place it.
Got it.
Wow.
So This was a challenge for me, being my first client. I have to thank my father, who's now in heaven, as my guide and my mentor, and he basically guided me through the various movements to get this thing accomplished, which we did, and the tour took off, and the rest is rock and roll history.
Wow. Very, very cool.
Did you ever meet any other famous people through Ozzy?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm just thinking back.
Scott, throw that out there.
I know.
Yeah. I remember I spent a lot of time backstage. I didn't like to sit up in the front because when I sat in the front, most of the kids, you couldn't hear them anyway, but were on top of their chairs and screaming and yelling. So I would sit usually stage left, stage right, off to the side, and I would watch the shows, which were phenomenal.
Is that because you wanted to be able to continue to be able to hear things?
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. I went to an AC/DC concert, and I was like 14 rows in front of the stage, free passes, and I couldn't hear for 3 days because I forgot to bring, I'm not kidding. The speakers were just so loud.
Well, even to this day, drumming, I've been drumming all my life, doing rock and roll.
Right.
And I always have worn one of my teachers told me, you got to wear earplugs next to the amplifiers.
You go deaf.
Yeah, one of my ears has been affected by it. Yeah. But pretty much because I started using the plugs at a young age, it's really helped me through my career.
So I was on a flight. This is kind of a little bit of trivia. I was on a flight, and I'm going from LA to Chicago O'Hare. And who's on the flight? Ronnie James Dio and his band. And I wanted to ask Dio to start singing. I mean, he's a little Italian guy. And I mean, when you see that guy on stage or singing and you're like, how can somebody so tiny have such an impactful voice? And the funny part is Dio. I mean, he was with Rainbow and then he was with Black Sabbath, replaced Ozzy when Ozzy went solo. So I know a little bit of that history too.
Yeah.
I'm not a heavy rocker, but I know enough.
Great singer.
A great singer.
Phenomenal.
I mean, he's passed away, unfortunately, but I mean, what a voice. What a voice. And I saw him and he was just really chill, just sitting in his, and I'm like, sitting next to one of the bandmates. I'm like, oh, what band are you with? I'm with Dio. He goes, it's over there. I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't say a word. I didn't bother these guys. We're on a plane for 4 hours, to Chicago.
What kind of music do you guys play at the Hollywood Rockefellers?
We've been playing together. The bass player, Chris, we've been neighbors since we were kids.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
We're
almost like the Beach Boys with neighbors, right?
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
much. And Luke, this is Luke Zamborini.
Okay.
Of his father's, Mr. Zamborini, was the war hero. Wow. There was a movie that
I saw that movie.
Yeah, that's his.
I think that was the one that Angelina Jolie directed.
And Brad Pitt when they were together. Yes.
Wow.
That's the connection?
That's a connection.
Wow, what a small world.
We've known each other for so many years.
That's very cool.
And we're still playing together. We've been through different name changes and whatnot. We're actually still playing in the studio at Chris's house that was built in the 70s in the garage, 24-track studio. We're still playing in that same studio, and we're doing 60s, 70s, and 80s, all the hits.
Sounds like fun. So advertise one more time. What's it called?
The Hollywood Rockefellers.
And the
HollywoodRockefellers.com.
website? And the email?
HollywoodRockefellers@gmail.com.
Terrific. So what we'll do now is we're going to take a break for about 30 seconds. Just sit back, relax, listen to the music, and then we're going to get into that candid story about the Playboy Bunnies. And welcome back to the show. And Greg, now we're going to dig a little deeper. You're going to tell us a little bit more about this Playboy Bunny theme that kind of ran in the family for a while. Fill us in on some details there.
Well, that's an interesting story. So I found out that my stepmother, my dad's third wife, very nice, really nice woman. I only knew her as mom, but one of my classmates in junior high school brought a Playboy to school, opened it up, and the centerfold was my mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So needless to say, between that, finding out about that, and kind of called my dad at work when I got home from school that day and said, "Hey, Pop, is it true?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" He didn't know.
He didn't know.
He had no clue.
You're kidding.
No. So that evening was a very interesting dinner. Not a lot of food was being eaten.
Can't imagine there was.
No, not a lot of food.
Probably more alcohol being drank.
Yeah, I was going to say drinks would have been on hand. But basically, it came out, and there was a huge disturbance over it, which they worked out. But this was very new into their relationship. So the things that transpired after that, which was kind of amazing, and I kept wondering why all my friends wanted to come over to my house every day after school, because, well, first of all, my dad had built an arcade and a pool table, and all my buddies, including Chris, would come over after school and we hang out. And there were parties on the weekends where numerous Playboy bunnies would come over and go swimming. So
You had a Playboy Bunny fest in your backyard.
yeah, I think Hugh Hefner should have come over to our place.
Was it clothing optional?
Well, it was okay. Yeah, so there was a lot of
Unique
attire. I was, gosh, how old was I then? I was just around 12 to 13, maybe at that particular time. But it turned out to be a very interesting experience for me personally. I won't go into a lot of detail, but let's just say that was the first of
many
my experiences.
Wow.
So
with girls.
you could say that you didn't have to go to the Playboy Mansion. They came to you.
Pretty much.
Nice. How many people could say that?
Not too many.
Not too many.
To be honest with you, I have never really discussed this with anybody.
Wow.
Well, we want to thank you because this is the Candid Show.
That's
Exactly.
right. The ultimate candid show.
Exactly.
And that's definitely an ultimate candid show story, isn't it?
I mean,
Absolutely.
That's something you can't. It's priceless. I mean, honestly, it's priceless. So, I mean, it seems like to me like you've had a really full life,
Very full life.
to say the least.
Yes.
I mean, insurance by day, rocker by night.
Pretty much.
And so, my question to you is like, if there's anything else that sticks out in terms of some of your celebrity encounters or whatever, what else? I mean, you're full of stories. So, I mean, I've got to ask, maybe we got maybe another minute or so, but like,
I would say this shocking thing that happened with Tina Turner. Back in the day, I had a friend of mine by the name of Dick Fox, a friend of my family's, who was a promoter, agent type, and loved music. And I got a call from him one day, and he asked me if I would come down to a studio and play drums. He was putting a band together to back a singer, and I said, sure. Well, it turned out to be Ike and Tina's studio,
Oh, wow.
recording studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So the way I knew is when I pulled up, I think it was on South La Brea. When I pulled up to the studio, I walked down a hallway. I remember that, and there was like one after the other of gold records, one after the other. And I'm reading the gold records going, oh my God, Ike and Tina Turner, who I just love that music. So anyway, I was at the studio. We actually went back about 5 times, did some recording there. And it was really remarkable that I never met Ike, but Tina came walking through the room when we weren't playing one day. We were kind of like listening back to some tracks and introduced herself. And I was just like, this is the nicest woman I've ever met in my life. Wow. Nicest human.
Humble.
Wow.
Humble, sweet, just hospitable. And I've followed her career forever. I've played in bands that have done her music. There's actually an audition coming up for a Tina Turner show that I talked to somebody about, and they put my name in the hat for that.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a phenomenal experience, and I'm so sorry that she left us.
Very sad.
Very sad.
She was really the queen of rock and roll.
She was.
Phenomenal. If you ever got to see her live.
I didn't. Did you?
Oh yeah.
You did?
Oh yeah, a couple times. Oh yeah.
I mean, she was amazing, wasn't she?
The dancing. Now, I heard that Mick Jagger used to hang with her a lot and taught her, she taught Mick a lot of his moves. I was watching film the other day, and sure enough,
Yeah.
I'm looking at
Mick
him.
Jagger.
I went back and forth, and Mick Jagger, they had a lot, he copied a lot of her moves.
You know, when she went solo, one of the first things she did was she opened up for the Stones.
Right. I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that. The
I think it was like, what, mid-'80s?
mid-'80s, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do definitely remember that. They loved her.
they did.
They loved her.
Well, they love R&B.
Oh, yeah.
These are some amazing stories, Greg. Thank you so very much
my
for being on the
pleasure.
show
I really-
today.
really
We've
enjoyed
learned a
coming
lot.
here
We'd like to
today.
have you on again sometime in the future to tell us more,
Anytime.
if you would.
Anytime.
Excellent. So thank you, listeners, for listening today. You've learned some really interesting things. We hope you have a great week ahead, and thanks so much.
See you next week.
Take care now.